Welcome along. In this clip we're going to look at the idea of how we get from a margin utility to a demand curve. And so we're going to go back to the old cafe and we're going to look at those cups of coffee that we drank. So for the first cup we had margin utility of $7, the second was $5, the third was $4, and the fourth was $1. Now I'm going to put that onto a graph, and along the bottom, or up the top, we're going to measure the margin utility, and we're going to measure that in dollars. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And down the bottom there we've got quantity, which is the number of cups of coffee. And we're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4 cups of coffee. So if you take that margin utility for the first cup, let's stack it up as a bar chart. So let's move all those dollars down there to the first one. So for the first cup of coffee we get $7 worth of margin utility. Then in the second cup we stack that up and we get $5. The third one, $4. And the last one, $1. And as you can see, we've got a pictogram. We can now convert that into a bar chart, which actually plots our margin utility. So 1 bar for each of our cups of coffee. So we'll get rid of those dollar signs. And now, what we're actually going to do now is shift from that, the bar chart, to actually a line graph. So let's just draw a point at each of the corners of those rectangles. And then we're going to join those up with a line. Now that line there represents our marginal utility curve. So now we've got a graph of my margin utility for coffee. Now that's really useful because we can now use that to think about a demand curve. So we'll get rid of those bars and we'll just look at that line graph. Now what that graph tells us is that if the price was $7, based on the consumer equilibrium rule, I would buy 1 cup of coffee. Now, if the price fell to $5, I would buy $2. If the price fell again to $4, I'd buy 3. And finally, if the price fell to $4, I'd buy 1. Again, all based on the consumer equilibrium rule. So if you think about it, what that's just shown is how much I demand at various prices. What is my quantity demanded at each price? So for instance, if the price was $7, my quantity demanded would be 1. Whereas if the price was $4, my quantity demanded would be 3, because at $4 the price equals my margin utility of my third cup of coffee, which is also 4. So we've now got a demand curve. So that margin utility curve is in fact also our demand curve. So the graph now is also the graph of my demand for coffee. So on the left hand we're going to change that phrase from margin utility to margin utility or price, because we tend to, when we're drawing a demand graph, we put price rather than margin utility on the vertical axis and quantity down the bottom. So the last thing is, let's just have a look. If we price, remember in the last clip the price was $4. So if the market price for coffee is $4, we can tell from that demand curve that I would demand 3 cups of coffee. And as we've seen, that's based on my margin utility.